What's going on, guys? It's PapaGames, not that Crossfire guy, possibly Boozer Tech. I know I've been going through a lot of name changes here lately and branding for my channel. I'm just trying to find my niche. But I feel like what I have to say is pretty important, and I wanted to talk to you guys about, whether it's time to upgrade right now. This is June 21st of 2017. And, we've got the new AMD processors, Threadrippers coming out. We already got the 7 and the 5 line. I'm not very familiar with Intel, so I won't comment too much on that. But what I did want to talk about is, my subscribers to the channel, you guys know that, I switched over from Crossfire RX 580s to GTX 1080. And you guys also know that I have plans to upgrade to Ryzen, and some of you guys asked why I didn't upgrade to Ryzen, and so on and so forth. And we're going to get into some stuff, so just kind of stick around with me here. And maybe some of you guys don't want to hear me talk, you can just skip through it. But I will show some gameplay, and off screen. I do have plenty of playlists that you guys can look at. With on-screen recording using Relive with the Crossfires or single RX 580s or 480s, and using Shadow Play for the GTX 1080. So I have an older AMD FX 8370. Right now I currently have it overclocked to 4.6 gigahertz. I have had it up to 4.8 stable, and I've benched at 5. But the voltage had to be too high and the heat was hard to manage, so I find 4.6 to be pretty good, and good enough for what I want to do anyways. So let's go ahead and like I said, guys, this could be the most unprofessional video you see on YouTube today. I don't have the fancy cameras, and I don't have a crew backing me up to help me take video and so on and so forth. At least I do got a headset so that it doesn't sound like I'm talking through the webcam. But I do have a Logitech C920. It's a 1080p 60 frame per second webcam, and that's what I'm using right now. And I'm just going to kind of move it around and stuff throughout the video to either show you guys off-screen recording of gameplay, and also to show you my current setup with the rig. So right now I'm going to go ahead and take the camera and swap it around so you guys can see what kind of setup I currently have. I'll try to get it set down here so that we're not bouncing all over the place. Okay, this is in a Thermaltake Core P3. It's an open air case. Maybe you guys have seen these. You can mount them on the wall. You can lay them down on their back. There's feet on the back of it. Or of course have it standing up vertical like this. So right now I have the FX 8370, and that is cooled by the Corsair H110i version 2, or it's sometimes I think it's referred to as the GTX also. I have this in a push-pull, and what that means is these fans right here are pushing through the radiator, and then these fans back here are exhausting the air out the back. And I'll try to get it back here. You can see this is perforated back here all the way up and down the whole entire case, so that that air goes straight out the back. And then for the EVGA GTX 1080 hybrid, we're using, this comes with its own radiator, and I just got it stock right now with one. This is the stock fan on it, and it just has the one fan. This is pushing also through the radiator and exhausting out the back. So this way I don't have any air coming out towards the front here. And then for the Corsair H110i version 2, This is the cooler here. It is RGB. You can change the Corsair logo to any color that you want. And then I have 16 gigabyte of DDR3 1600. That's Crucial Ballistics Tactical Tracers. They do have the LEDs on them, but they're blue and orange, so I don't usually run them that much right now because they don't match my system color very well. This is the Asus 970 Pro Gaming Aura, and that has the Aura Pro Gaming logo down there. That's also RGB, and then you kind of got like an audio tracer that runs around through the motherboard there. Now that's red. That won't change colors with the Aura. And the Supreme FX logo is also LED, and that stays red also. Just in case you guys are wanting to know anything about the system, this is a Rosewell Hive 1000 watt power supply, which I had to get when I had my Crossfire set up. So, anyways, we're also using a Corsair K55 RGB keyboard, which it's not full RGB, it's just kind of RGB. I guess I'd have to show you on the software setup. It will do like a rainbow wave and stuff like that, but it's not as fancy. Like you can't change every key color as some of the higher end ones. It's the cheap RGB model. I'm not a competitive gamer, so I don't worry about that. I also have the Harpoon RGB Corsair mouse and the RGB mouse pad. Now, those are full RGB, I guess the whole 16 million color spectrum. This HP 27 ES, it's just a 1080p monitor. I use virtual super resolution when I'm playing games in 4K or 1440p. And right now I've got my rig moved back in the bedroom. When I do have it out in the living room, I can run the games through my Vizio P55 4K. And that's a 55 inch. So anyways, what I wanted to talk to you guys about is, how viable it is nowadays. I'm going to try to get this here so you can see the screen some. To have an older processor with such a high-end video card such as the GTX 1080 or Crossfire RX 580s and so on and so forth. Let me minimize this webcam software, or at least move it over because I want to make sure everything looks okay. So this is the Corsair Link software, and this lets you monitor your temps and everything. There's a little USB cable that comes off the bottom of the pump and then plugs into a USB header on your motherboard, and it lets you monitor the package temp, and you can also monitor the fan speeds on the radiator for it, and also your pump, and adjust your LEDs. And it picks up on other hardware in here too. We've got it shows the GTX 1080, its current temperature, its fan setting. This is motherboard temperatures. It shows your RAM and your timings, and also shows your RAM temperature also here, name of it. And it's just a really nice software, so you can make adjustments to your fan settings over here. And I'm getting way off base here, guys. So anyways, I wanted to talk about, whether it's viable to upgrade or not right now, with the newer processors out, or high-end Intel, or a Ryzen 7 or Ryzen 5, AM4 motherboard for the Ryzen, and DDR4 memory. And I think this is going to be more geared towards people who are not on an unlimited budget, such as myself. You have to make conscious decisions on what type of gaming you like to do, and also if you're doing like me and running a YouTube channel and recording your gameplay and stuff like that, what works best and what's important for you, and it's going to help you multitask and, for productivity and stuff to, get your videos edited and up on YouTube and or live stream and things like that. So um, I had the Crossfire RX 580s. At first I had 480s and then went to 580s. I had a 650 watt power supply, and it wasn't enough for the 480s. It was barely enough. So I had to upgrade to the 1000 watt. So that's why I have a 1000 watt power supply in there now, which is kind of overkill for what's in my rig at the moment. So let's talk about Crossfire for a minute. Right now, the pricing market is outrageous on Radeon cards. Let's check out newegg.com. Check out this software. Make sure you guys can see the screen okay. Yeah, it's alright. I know it's not a perfect angle. Okay, so let's just put in RX 580. Here's the only card they have in stock. $662 for a 4GB 580. No thanks. That's ridiculous, and there's no way it should cost that much. This is closer to the price that things should cost. $259 for an 8GB, or for the nice Gaming X, the 4GB $229. Let's see if they got the 8GB $269. And those are more of the prices that they should cost. But as you can see, everything is out of stock because of the Bitcoin miners. So anyways, interestingly enough, I bought my GTX 1080 EVGA hybrid on here less than 2 weeks ago. And this is still in stock for $580, which is pretty close to the same price of two RX 480s or 580s. And $580 with $5 shipping. Of course, half fan, half liquid cooled. I've never seen this thing go over 50 degrees under full load. So, these are all things that we have to make decisions about. I have this open air Core P3 because I wanted to try to bring down the temperatures on my Crossfire, and it did help tremendously. Having them in any kind of a case, I had the MSI Gaming X 8Gs, which do have the fans inside of the case instead of blower style. I hate blower style because of the turbine noise. I like my system to be super quiet. Fans just running on minimum when possible. So anyways, the reason that I switched over to the GTX 1080 is because the Crossfire was a lot of strain on my FX 8370. It was a lot of strain on my 16 gigabyte, 1600 megahertz memory, and it was also a lot of strain on the power supply. So I do plan to go back to Crossfire at some point, but it won't be until I get DDR4 memory, AM4 motherboard, and a Ryzen processor. So that the Crossfire will be utilized the best that it can be without putting so much strain on the system. And this motherboard also only supported 8x 2.0 or 2.08x on the PCI Express when the cards were in Crossfire. So it would have been nicer to have a board with 16x 3.0, and that way the cards are they got the bandwidth that they need. So what a lot of people don't know, because there's not a lot of information on Crossfire out there, what a lot of people don't know is that Crossfire uses RAM a lot more than just having a single card would. It has something to do with the way that it swaps textures in and out of the VRAM and to your onboard RAM. And I've seen games such as Rise of the Tomb Raider eat up the 8 gigabyte of VRAM, eat up the 16 gigabyte of onboard RAM, and then start using the page file when you're at 4K ultra settings, and then it becomes a strain on your hard drive too. So now you've strained your entire system, and the processor's having to work harder because it's working harder to try to find out what to do with all this texture swapping and everything. And by putting all that strain on the system, then of course you're dropping frames per second, or you're getting hitching or lag. So anyways, at this point right now, my recommendation would be, if you have I'm going to turn down my volume here on my speakers just so it doesn't bother me while I'm going to fire up a game here. If you have an older processor such as the FX 8000 or 9000 series, I'm excluding the 4000 and 6000 series because well, I've had experience with the 4000, and the 8000 series was a tremendous improvement over that, so I wouldn't even dare try to do 1440 60 frames per second ultra setting games on the 4000 series, and I don't know about the 6000 series. I'm also not familiar with Intel, but you guys know if your Intel is comparable to the FX 4000 or 6000, then I would recommend upgrading your processor, and I would not do anything less than equivalent to one of the higher end than a Ryzen 5 1600. That would be my recommendation, to at least go to that. But I will tell you this much: on CPU-Z, benchmarking at 4.8 gig on this FX 8370, it doesn't even score as high as the Ryzen 1400 4-core, which is their lowest processor that they have right now, and pretty much costs less than what you can get FX 8370 for new, or it's going to be real similar in price. So it just doesn't make sense to buy a 8000 or 9000 series processor anymore. This video is geared towards people who people who have this hardware right now and are wanting to know, should I upgrade my processor? Should I upgrade my RAM? Should I upgrade my power supply? Should I go Crossfire? And another thing, excuse me, that I would like to note is, if you guys are going Crossfire, then make sure that you get 8 gigabyte cards, because when you can play at the higher resolutions, like the 1440p or 4K with ultra settings, you're going to need that extra VRAM, because the higher textures use more VRAM, so you're going to need it. I would definitely not recommend Crossfire in RX 480 or 584 gigabyte cards, because you're just going to be hindering your performance by doing that. So this right now, let me see, I'll go to free play. We're going to abandon that race. Go to Land Rush and add an event. Baja, Mexico, and let's do some rain, because the rain is hard on the systems, on the graphics. So I got the stats pulled up, and I'm not really sure how well you guys can see them here, but I'll kind of let you know as I'm going through. Like I said, I know this is going to be off screen and not perfect for you guys, so but I felt like, it's something that we definitely need to talk about. So, like I said, this is at this is on the FX 8370. I believe right now I'm overclocked at 4.6 gigahertz, and my RAM's overclocked to 1800 megahertz. And this system will stay nice and quiet while I'm gaming, even in 4K resolution. So, let me see. I need to see what kind of settings I got on right now. Okay, so right now we are at Ultra. This is at 4K with 2x MSAA, which is kind of pointless when you're at 4K resolution, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that off anyways. And see advanced settings. You can see everything's on ultra. You can see recorded benchmarks of this on my channel. Just look under the playlist. So, but I just wanted to show people for who haven't been on my channel. So you can see we're getting over 70 frames per second right now in 4K. It's hovering right around 58 right now. And this game seems like once you get moving, it actually works better. In the usage on the GPU, the GTX 1080 is at 98 right now. The FX 8370 is hovering in the mid 40s. And the temperature of the GTX 1080 hybrid is 43 degrees. And we're still hitting 70 frames per second here in 4K ultra settings. So, I could have actually left the MSAA on and still been able to maintain an average of 60 frames per second. We're hitting 85 frames per second on some parts of this. And this is like pretty much the most intense graphics setting you can do on Dirt 4 is with the rain on. And this is a nice game. We almost hit 90 frames per second there. Because it utilizes all 8 cores, while you're playing. So you can see we got some cores up there at 60%, and I think I've seen about 3 or 4, 70% utilization on separate cores and stuff. So, okay, so anyways, that's one game, and so there's one example right there that you can run 4K over 60 frames per second on ultra settings with an older, FX series processor, 8000 series processor, and a high-end GPU, and still get 100% usage. The thing is the games that are optimized well, then it works. And this is on the developers, guys. You can't expect, there's just poorly optimized games, and we can't blame that on, say, oh, well, your GPU's bottlenecked. Well, 98% usage, 99% usage is not bottlenecked. The FX 8370 is not bottlenecking the GTX 1080 at 4K 60 frames per second. We just seen that on ultra settings. What was bottlenecking it, or what would be bottlenecking it on a poorly optimized game, is just the developers not doing what they're supposed to do. Let's go and check out some Witcher 3. This is another good optimized game that utilizes the 8 cores. You can also see the memory down at the bottom of the screen here. Right now it's getting up into the 5 gigabyte. I do have the GTX 1080 overclocked a little bit right now. I'm at 2088 megahertz and 5508 on the MEM, and the MEM is double data rate, so it's 11,000. We'll see what it does when it boosts up. I also have videos of this in Crossfire, and also running on the GTX 1080. And yesterday I actually made a video showing the performance difference between the GTX 1080 and also Crossfire within this game. Okay, so here we are, and let me see what my settings are, because I don't even know what I was on last time. Video graphics. Okay, this is 1440p. Hairworks is off. Hairworks is just kind of silly to me. You lose 10 to 15 frames per second having it on, and it doesn't even look that good, in my opinion. The post-processing is set to high, and that's it. So we're at ultra settings, 1440p. Inside of the building, getting 80, 90. Let's see a cutscene here, 93. And the 1080 usage is at 99%, which is 100. It's just because it's registering as 99.9. And don't forget too that I'm using this webcam to do the recording now, so surely that's utilizing some system also. I'm at 1080p 60 frames per second recording, which isn't as taxing as screen recording, obviously. So you can see we're getting nice utilization on all the cores here, 50s, 40s. The RAM's getting up towards 7 gigabyte now, and we're getting good usage on everything. And this is only at 1440p now. So again, a well-optimized game makes a world of difference. So, okay, out of the cutscene, we're walking around now, 80 frames per second. We're out here in the forest, with the shadows and everything coming into play. And I don't really have anybody to fight or nothing here, but we can do some stuff here, just kind of show you some effects. And we're still, hovering around 80 frames per second. So let's go ahead and we'll switch it up to 4K. Yeah, options, video, graphics, 4K. So again, we're 4K Ultra with no hairworks on. 52, 49, 50 frames per second, 47 frames per second. Some of you guys with Intels, or if you know people with Intels, or you've watched a YouTube video with a i7 paired up with a GTX 1080, I'm pretty sure that the Witcher gets around this kind of frames per second even on the high-end i7s. And the reason that is, and why they're not getting much better frames per second, is because this is a well-optimized game and it's utilizing all 8 of the cores on the processor. So, okay, that's enough of that game. So I'm not going to keep showing you guys games over and over and over. If you want to see some more off-screen games so you can see the real performance, I can actually do those. And definitely I can tell I'm getting better frames per second without doing shadow play or using the Radeon Relive. So now let's go back to the original question, and this is whether you should upgrade or not right now. And if you have this older hardware right now and you don't have an unlimited budget, then I would definitely say it's okay to go ahead and spend the money on a GPU right now. Because say in my instance, I sold the RX 580s. I sold them for $550. I paid $500 for them. So I made a $50 profit, and that's just because the way the market is right now with that pricing. For that $550, I added $20 and got the GTX 1080 shipped to my house. And the positive note about that is it's liquid, so my temperatures are 50 degrees as compared to pushing up to 80 with the Crossfires and having to have the fans blasted. So I'm not knocking Crossfire. I love Crossfire, guys. And like I said, I plan to go back to it. But I've got to, upgrade my processor and all that stuff first. So I was left in this situation. Do I spend, the $570 on the GTX 1080, or do I spend the $570 and I could get, a nice motherboard, Ryzen 5, 1600, and some nice DDR4 memory. All that stuff would be great if I still had the Crossfire RX 580s or if I had a GTX 1080. But if I would have spent the money on all that, I wouldn't have had, maybe $100 left for a video card. And what kind of video card are you going to get for $100? And with all that extra added processing performance and stuff, it's just not really going to do you any good if you don't, if you don't have a GPU to push the graphics. So my recommendation if you have a FX 8000 or 9000 series, go ahead and buy you a big bad GPU. Get the 1080, the 1080 Ti. You just seen you can get 99% usage on games that are optimized well. Games that aren't optimized well, that's not the GPU's or the processor's fault. All the i7s do and all the Ryzens do is really push for those unoptimized games to make them run better than what our older processors can. But if you have an Intel equivalent to a FX 8000 or 9000 series, I would also say go ahead and you could upgrade your GPU to a nicer high-end one. And the reason I say to do this instead of upgrading your processor, your motherboard, and your RAM is when you get all that stuff and you don't have the nice GPU, you're only going to be able to play your games at 1080p and maybe ultra settings and maybe 60 frames per second. Doing it this way, there's going to be a lot of games that you can see if you check out my channel and my playlists that you can play in Crossfire or with the GTX 1080 at 4K, 60 frames per second, definitely 1440p, 60 frames per second, and some 1080 games at ultra settings with some insane frame rates, you know, pushing up into the mid 100s, or some older games like Devil May Cry and stuff like that getting over like 250 frames per second, guys. So why would you not do that now? You know, go ahead and get the GPU now, and then you can buy the motherboard, the RAM, and the processor piece by piece, because those are usually only, you know, the RAM might cost you 150, the motherboard might cost you 200, somewhere around there, you know, for a high-end one. And the processor's, you know, going to cost you maybe around 300 or so, you know, depending on what you go with. So I would rather do it that way, and I can upgrade a part at a time, because that's easier for me to do because I'm not on an unlimited budget. And you guys won't subscribe to my channel or like the videos, so I'm not making any money off YouTube either. Just saying. So help me out, guys. Like this video. This is to help out, you know, us guys that are on a limited budget. Go ahead and get the GPU so you can start enjoying your 1440p 4K ultra 60 frames per second games now. And don't worry nothing about people saying, oh, your GPU's, or, you know, you're bottlenecking that 1080. Bottlenecked or not, 4K 60 frames per second at ultra is 4K 60 frames per second at ultra. And if you're getting 100 and I'm getting 70, I don't care. I'm on a 60 hertz monitor. It doesn't make a world of difference to me. So, alright guys, till next time, like I said, please make sure that you like, subscribe, share this frickin' video everywhere so people will shut up about GPU bottlenecks and CPU bottlenecks and go get your 4K gaming on. Peace.